This week on Art in the Air features Mexican-American children's book author and illustrator Ju-viee Morales, whose stories come from her own experience of coming to America. Next, we have the co-founder of Devi 2000, Debi Buzil, whose Sanskrit chanting has produced several albums. Our spotlight is at Chicago Street Theater's production of The Play That Goes Wrong, running February 10th through the 26th.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.
Welcome. You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM and WVLP 103.1 FM, our weekly program covering the arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. I'm Larry Breckner of New Perspectives Photography, right alongside here with Esther Golden of The Nest in Michigan City.
Aloha, everyone.
We're your hosts for Art on the Air. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project Grant through South Shore Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Art on the Air is heard Friday at 11 a.m. and Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP 103.1 FM, streaming at WVLP.org, and every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Radio. Information about Art on the Air is available on our website, breck.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our shows are available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for more information about upcoming shows and interviews. And we'd like to welcome to Art on the Air Spotlight from the Chicago Street Theater. They got their upcoming show, which is opening February 10th through the 25th, with an additional February 26th matinee. It is called The Play That Goes Wrong. And we have our directors here today, Joel Henry and Melinda Burns Henry. Welcome to Art on the Air Spotlight.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So
Good to see you.
This play's been being done quite a bit around everything, but maybe our audience is not familiar with this. So maybe give us an idea what the plot is on The Play That Goes Wrong.
Absolutely. So we are a play within a play. The play within the play called The Murder at Haversham Manor, which is a murder mystery gone wrong. Our play follows it along, and really it's about the comedy and the laughs and everything falling apart, and all the things that can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah. A murder mystery gone horribly awry.
And so when did you start running the rehearsals and casting the show and that whole process?
We cast the show back in December, and then we started doing set building over the holidays, and then we started rehearsal right away after the new year. We started getting people in there for table reads, and then we started walking through lines and all that stuff. So we've been at it for a good few months, and my husband here, who designed the set himself, he's been at it much longer, working on that. So
It's such a fun set. You must have had such a great time. Have you appointed it yet?
Set dressing.
The set dressing. Thank you.
Yeah, we got an amazing set dresser, Jessie Howe, and she's in the process of painting. We finished the construction this last weekend. This show is a massive undertaking, set wise and just prop wise, and everything has a purpose. Everything needs to be planned out for safety purposes, since everything is falling apart. So it took quite a while to design it, and it took a lot of effort and a lot of people to build it as well.
A lot of technical directing on that one.
Yes, it is. This place seems reminiscent a little bit of Noises Off in a way, in terms of, and again, you don't necessarily flip the set to see the backstage thing, but it seems like it has that kind of feel to it. Am I right?
Well, you certainly see the backside ultimately in the end. I won't give away any spoilers, but it is, it's very reminiscent of that. Of course, it is relentless, is the way I would describe this. Every page of this has a gag, or two or three in this instance.
And as such, like blocking the actors, telling them, you need to be at this part of the stage for this dialogue, and that's been like step by step. We literally have to plan out their every move. So like it's been an odyssey.
I know. It's like funny thing happened on the way to the forum when you have the chase scene. You literally have to have the one person going off the stage, the other one appears. It's very, very vaudevillian. Mm-hmm. So tell us about some of the cast members you have for the roles.
We have honestly, probably one of our most proud things has been the casting that we've been able to have. We have such an amazing, fun, very committed cast. Doesn't complain somehow through. They
have every right to complain. They don't.
They have bruises. They have all kinds of things, and every step of the way they keep going. But we have quite a mix of new and older, seasoned actors, especially for our theater. We have 8 cast members, 11 total.
Yeah, 11 total, including in this play, some stage crew accidentally appear on stage. So including those people, we have 11 total, but the main roles, there's 8. So
well, it's just so fun. I mean, like the set is fun, the costumes are fun, the action is like nonstop fun. So what a good choice.
Yeah. Nonstop is an excellent description of the play.
The description of the show is that it's kind of like a Monty Python mixed with a Sherlock Holmes vibe. And it seems like
very absolutely. Physical.
And a very well-meaning cast, just trying desperately just to get through this.
But always with a smile on their face. I mean, and they make us laugh every night at rehearsal. They make us laugh. They're so funny and they're so talented, and we're really, really lucky to have them. So
very good. And were there any problems coming up getting the cast together, or any obstacles while you were in rehearsal or in production?
Honestly, I'd say our only struggle with casting was choosing, because so many talented people showed up to auditions. We had a ton of people show up.
This is such a popular show. Getting people to audition for it was coming out of COVID, it's always been a little trouble getting volunteers and getting people to be able to commit time. And it felt like this show brought a lot of people back. And
we're just ready to laugh, aren't we?
Ready to laugh, exactly.
Everyone needs to laugh. Everybody keeps telling us, like, you're crazy to do this show. And we're like, well, we want to make people laugh. Yeah. They need it.
That's a common response when we tell people we're doing this show is, are you crazy?
Are you crazy?
Maybe. Yeah, we're like, yeah, probably a little bit.
Briefly tell us just a little about your theater backgrounds. And we have about a minute and a half left here. So just to really give a thumbnail.
Sure. Yeah. Mine is, I grew up with this theater group since I was about 10 years old. I took a very long break because I lived in Los Angeles for 17 years. I work in film, and I still work in film and travel. And this is my first time directing in theater for 20 years. The last one was exactly 20 years ago, this time slot at this theater. So
wow.
And
welcome back.
Thank you.
As we say on the play that goes wrong, this is my directorial debut.
Debut.
She has background. She did a lot of high school.
A lot of high school theater, but that was a long time ago, man.
Can't be that long ago. Well, we have about 30 seconds here, so wrap up. Tell us the dates of the show, location, and everything about what's going on.
Yeah, it's February 10th to the 26th. We have a total of 9 performances. We just added a final one on the final Sunday on the 26th. You can go onto the Chicago Street Theater website, which I think is
chicagostreet.org.
Yeah, chicagostreet.org. And I believe the prices, at least at 22 is 22. The high version here. Tickets have been going very fast, so do not hesitate. It's such a popular show, and it's been amazing seeing our first weekend's almost sold out. So
well, we appreciate that. Chicago Street Theater, the play that goes wrong, February 10th through the 26th. It's Joel Henry, Melinda Burns. Henry, thank you so much for being on Art on the Air Spotlight.
Thank you.
Art on the Air Spotlight and the full 1-hour Art on the Air program on Lakeshore Public Radio is brought to you by Macaulay Real Estate in Valparaiso, Olga Patrician, Senior Broker. You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM, and on WVLP 103.1 FM.
We would like to welcome Ju-viee Morales to Art on the Air. Ju-viee is a multi award-winning author and illustrator. She was born into a family of avid storytellers, which laid a strong foundation of creative communication. Ju-viee has been recognized as one of the most celebrated Latina children's book authors, using her family's legacy and heritage as inspiration. When asked about her illustrations, this is a partial quote in her own words. She strives to capture the incredible beauty of everyday forms, using texture and colors as another way to reveal the heart of a story. A really good recipe in general. Thank you, Ju-viee, for joining Larry and I on Art on the Air. Aloha and welcome.
Hey, hi. Thank you for having me.
Well, real excited about having you. We always like to start out our interviews kind of with your background, your personal story. I call it your origin story. And of course, having seen you on the PBS promo, that's where I decided you had to be a guest here. But we want to hear your story about how you got from where you were to where you are now. So tell us about that, Ju-viee.
Like where everything started, huh?
Exactly.
Well, I was born in Mexico, and I lived in Mexico until I was 25 years old. And at some point, I met a gringo guy. Yeah, here in Mexico, actually, and we fell in love, and we procreated a beautiful son. And when he were, like I've been doing my life. I studied to be a PE teacher. I wanted to be a swimming coach, actually, and I studied psychology. And I always loved drawing, always, always. But it was one of those things that I saw as a hobby because everybody who was around me couldn't point to my love of drawing to something different than just like, oh yeah, that's something that Yuyi likes to do. So I never really saw myself as part of the art world, or I guess I was creative, but that was it. So when I went to school, to become a swimming coach. And not long after I finished school was when my son was born, and he was only 2 months old when we immigrated to the United States. And actually, the intention wasn't that we were gonna go and live in the United States. Is that we were gonna go and visit. I was living here in Mexico, and everybody from the United States side of the world wanted to meet my son, their grandchild, their nephew, their relatives wanted to meet him, and I wanted to go there and share my son with them. But what I didn't know was that first I wasn't what's the word? I wasn't someone that I was gonna get a visa to go and visit. I didn't have the requirements like most Mexican people. We don't have them. Age, economical situation, many things that you are asked for in order to be granted permission to go and even visit a country like the United States. I didn't have that. So when I had requested a visiting visa, they didn't give it to me. So when my son was only 2 months old, I was going to visit there, but the urgency was that great grandpa had gotten really sick, and he didn't look like he was gonna make it, and he wanted to meet his only grandchild. So that's how I went there, and what I asked for through my mother-in-law was a visa that is a fiancé visa, which I had no idea, what it meant. I just went along, signed a lot of papers, unknowingly that a fiancé visa is not a visiting visa. It is an immigration visa. It gives you the right live in the United States, a right that you have to exercise. So when I got there and I shared my child with everybody, with all the relatives, the news came to me, and they were really news because I did not expect it, that I couldn't come back home. That if I wanted to keep my visa and the right that I had to live with my family in the same country, I had to exercise that right and live in the United States. And you're gonna hear a lot of noises here. I don't know if you can hear this, like a whistle. My studio is the door goes right outside to the street, and this is a Mexican town, like with kind of like still a classic feeling of that old towns, and that the whistle that you were hearing is the person who sharpens like knives, and yeah, and that's how they announce themselves.
And how I got your story, and you are in the United States, and of course through the PBS promo, you didn't speak English or didn't speak much English, and so you tell that story that you told a little bit on PBS for our listeners.
Yeah, sure. Well, I got in the United States with just enough words in English to be absolutely confused. Like if I use the words that I knew, like asking, "Hi, how are you?" I could never deal with the answers. Like if the answers were beyond fine, I'm fine. Beyond that, I couldn't deal with conversations. So getting to the United States and having to live there. When you're visiting, everything is okay. Even if you don't understand, people might be kind and help you out. But once you are there for good, it's like you are on your own. You have to figure it out. And for me, leaving my country, my family, and even my home, because we had a home here in Mexico, and leaving all of that was like losing everything that gave me validation, that gave me strength, everything that supported me. Like, for instance, I couldn't work. The things that I had studied and gone to school for were useless if I didn't, like my school papers were useless for here in the United States. So at the time, it felt like everything that gave me validation was just taken away from me. And eventually, and it took me a long time to realize that that was a blank piece of canvas to start writing a new story. But one of the first things that I needed to do was to learn how to speak in English. And I was living with my mother-in-law at the time, and she didn't speak any Spanish, and we usually communicated just like with a few words and kind of like signaling things. My father-in-law also was very helpful. He loved to draw things in napkins so that I could understand what they were trying to say. And one of the things that was super important in my life was that my mother-in-law, in the mornings, I was homesick. Like my heart was broken. I just wanted to go back home. So she knew, she could see that I was really sad, and I was having a hard time. And I had a 2-month-old baby. So every morning when we will wake up, she will call me and she will turn on the TV, and she will put on public television, and I will watch Sesame Street. And then sometimes I kept watching, and I watched Mr. Rogers, and I watched Reading Rainbow, and a lot of shows, but my favorite so far was Sesame Street. And it was super important because when I was a child, when I was in kindergarten, my mother tells me that I used to run back home after kindergarten because I wanted to watch a TV show in Mexico that was called Plaza Sésamo. Plaza Sésamo is the Sesame Street in Spanish that we will watch in Mexico. And my mother tells me, that's how you start reading. Like before that, you weren't interested, but once you start watching Sesame Street, you start wanting to learn how to read. And when I get to the United States, an adult with a 2-month-old baby, and I'm there watching this Henry and they have different names in Mexico than in the United States. But then I see their faces, Cookie Monster and Roger and all of them, and I see them as like I was so sad and so sad that I didn't have my family with me. When I see them in the screen, it was like my family was back with me.
No.
Then I wasn't alone. And then they have all these repetitions. They are letting us know words in English that were new to me, but they will repeat it and they put it in the screen. You can see them, whether they are letters or words or concepts. And I was there with my baby watching all the time. And that was the beginning of a journey of just immersing myself in how to speak English and also how to be a person who lives in the United States. I had so much learning that I did watching Sesame Street.
It's sure an endorsement for PBS as that story, and I find it fascinating. Whenever I heard your story on PBS when you did that promo, I was like, that's a remarkable story. And that led you to start drawing and painting and things. You got yourself a paint set, and so tell us about that.
I did. The other thing that my mother did is Sunday she put my child, the stroller, and me inside the car. She just signaled, let's go. Had no idea where we are going. And she took me to the public library. And in the public library, like she was opening up the world for me because the United States was such a different place from the place where I came from in Mexico. And yes, in Mexico, we do have public libraries, but when I was growing up, I didn't have the experience of public libraries, and also public libraries in the United States were functioning in ways that weren't working here yet. So what it happened is that I pretty much fell in love with books, especially children's books, because they had art, because they had drawings, because they had stories with words that I could recognize, some of them because I watched them in Sesame Street. So I could recognize some of the words. I couldn't really understand the stories, but art became that light that helped me make sense of the narrative. And whenever I fall in love with something, I love to draw it. I when my son was born, for example, I drew him over and over again. And when I saw books and I fell in love with them, I just wanted to emulate them. I wanted to do things like what I saw in the books. So I knew that if I wanted to make books like that, well, I will have to look for stories, which I had them in me. And I also wanted to learn how to create the art. And the other thing that I needed to learn was how I write those stories so that other people besides my child will hear them and can understand them. So I had a lot of learning ahead of me, how to speak and write in English, how to make the drawings or art that were similar to the ones I saw in books. So I did buy my first set of paints. Actually, my father-in-law took me to the art store for the very first time, and I couldn't believe it. Like these amazing places. I was overwhelmed, and we couldn't. I mean, we communicated just sparingly, and I couldn't understand that he was offering to buy me anything I wanted from the art store. And I was too shy, thinking I really don't have much money with me, and so I remember the first time that he took me to the art store, I got a set of crayons. But these were the kind of crayons that if you put some water, it acts like watercolor. And that was the thing that I bought for the first time. And I just went home and started practicing using these materials for the very first time.
So with Soñadores, was that your first book?
No, Soñadores is actually one of my latest books. So prior to Soñadores, I have about, I think, 15 more books. Mhm. My first book was published in 2003, and that's a book called Just a Minute, a trickster tale and canting book. And it's a book that is based in the folk stories of my childhood, of my country here in Mexico. It is a trickster tale, like which I love, in which ordinary beings like you or me can defeat extraordinary entities. And in this case, it's a grandmother who wakes up one morning to find a skeleton waiting for her outside of her door.
And of course, I have that book for my grandson here. So,
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Awesome.
well, before we run out of time, I want to make sure if you can read a sample from one of your books, because it's not just the artwork, which is absolutely gorgeous, but these are great stories. And so, if you could read just a short little excerpt for us, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So I'm going to read you from Bright Star, which is my latest book. This is a book that is published both in English and in Spanish. There are two versions. And this story happens in a very special place in the world, which is the borderlands, the place where two countries meet, in this case, Mexico and the United States. And I guess you won't be able to see the pictures. The pictures in any picture book play a big part of the story, big part of the story. But I'm going to read you a little part of this book, and I'm going to try to tell you a little more about the images. So this is Bright Star by Yuyi Morales. The first thing that you see is a scene with a hummingbird hovering over some plants from the landscape of the borderlands.
Yeah, cactus.
Yes, there is a cactus and a saguaro cactus, which are a very, very important entity, habitant of the borderlands. Child, you are awake. Breathe in, then breathe out. Hermosa criatura. And what you see is a fawn. It's a baby deer opening her eyes.
The most delicate, beautiful baby fawn.
Thank you. Thank you. And they're just kind of flying down in some, I'm forgetting the name of the plants, but these are plants where here in Mexico and in the borderlands, they usually hide. You are alive. You are a bright star inside our hearts. And what you see here, baby deer being kissed, licked by her mother. Mira! And that's a word in Spanish, which means look. Some things you can see, others you must find. And here in this page, there are a lot of things to look for, to see if you can see them. Especially plants and animals of the borderlands, like a tortoise, like a grasshopper, a hummingbird, bees. So you search. You are ready, cosita pequeña. Let's go. Vámonos. And what you see here is baby deer. I like to call her venadita because in Spanish, the little deer is called venadito or venadita. So I call her venadita. And venadita is jumping to join her mother because they are going to start their journey. Their journey to look for the things that they need. Oh no. What is that? And there is something happening. We don't quite see what it is, but something is entering the page. Look and listen. Be alert. And there are many animals being alert. Also, Benedita is looking at her mother, kind of like hope, waiting for.
Kind of apprehensive.
Apprehensive. Yeah. What else do you think that she may be feeling right there? Like, Mama, tell me what we are gonna do next. Yeah.
And Mom's got that protective looking around.
That's right. Exactly. And all the other animals as well. And now the animals are fleeing. And Mama Venada, Mama deer, is telling Benedita, te amo, which means
I love you.
Love you. And here in this scene, Benedita is very low. She's lying down on the floor, on the ground, actually. And what Mama is doing is she's asking this baby deer to go very, very low and be very, very quiet and still. Because that's what mamas, especially mama deers, do when they sense danger. They ask the babies to be undetectable. That's their way to survive. And now she says, corazoncito tembloroso. Breathe in despacito. Then gently breathe out. Lie low. We want you safe. No matter where you are a bright star inside our hearts. And well, this is part of the story. Benedita is hiding and Mama is not there anymore, because that's what animals do. In order to protect their babies, they usually go away in a separate location so that they don't call the attention of predators. And that's how the story kind of begins.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up, but I want to give you an opportunity to tell our audience how they can find your books, how they can find out more about you and everything.
Sure. Well, you can always go to my website, which is yuyiimorales.com, Yuyi, Y-U-Y-I, Morales. But you can also find me in social media like Instagram and Facebook, Yuyi Morales. My books, usually, if you can find them at your local independent store, that's the best place to buy them. If they don't have my books or any book that you are looking for, you can always ask them to see if they can order them for you. And the public library. That's the best home for books.
Well, I have two of the books for my 2.5-year-old grandson. Ju-viee, this has been just tremendous pleasure meeting you and hearing a little bit more detail about your story. And thank you so much for coming on Art on the Air.
It's been a pleasure.
So appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM, and on WVLP, 103.1 FM.
We are pleased to welcome Debi Buzil to Art on the Air. Debi is the founder of Devi 2000, Chicago's premier Kirtan group. To date, they have 4 albums. Devi 2000 is rooted in Bhakti Yoga, which is centered on loving devotion. Debi has studied music in Brazil, India, and the United States. She is also the music editor at Yoga Chicago. Her work has been featured on TV shows like The L Word and Saturday Night Live. Debi dedicates her numerous projects to building bridges between truth, art, and culture. Thank you, Debi, for joining Larry and I on Art on the Air. Aloha and welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Well, Debi, our audience loves to hear about our guests and their background and your origin story. And I always like to say how you got from where you were to where you are now. So tell us about yourself.
Well, I grew up in a musical family. My grandparents were Chicago jazz people. I took piano lessons when I was a little kid. I could not eat dinner till I practiced for an hour. So
did you impose that upon yourself, or was that a familial request?
That was my mother. So, we've got a classical piano in my house now that belonged to my grandmother that I grew up playing. It's a wonderful lineage to come from. As a young person, I played classical piano, and as a little bit older, my brother would invite me to jam out with him. So somehow I do Kirtan music, which is spiritually based music rooted in the Indian mantras that we learn through yoga practice or through study of scriptures. And as a teenager, my brother taught me how to play every heavy metal Black Sabbath bass line for him. So I can run the full gamut of musical expression is how I look at it. So my brother taught me bass. He needed a bass player. A little bit older, there was a Brazilian band when I was in my 20s, and I used to go out and see them in Chicago. The name was Maluca Samba, and I loved to dance, and I loved this music. Again, my grandparents were old jazz people, so we grew up also listening to bossa nova and singing the bossa nova songs. So this Brazilian music was very exciting to me. And one day I was asked, can you sing tomorrow night? We have a big New Year's Eve gig. I was like, I don't know Portuguese. They're like, just come, just come. So I ended up singing and playing percussion as time went by, as the years went by. I picked up more and more hand percussion instruments. I went to Brazil to learn how to play these instruments and to learn Portuguese. I took this very seriously. And I was heartbroken when 5 years after this project started, the leader of our group had an accident and could no longer sing. So, all the questions that a person has when they're in a moment like this, whether it be from their family or their friend group, led me to deepen my yoga practice. Who am I? I thought I was a member of this Brazilian group, and my identity was so tied to it. So I ran off to study yoga. So that was great. I had been introduced to yoga as a kid through my mom. My mom was like that 70s person who practiced yoga, and she would, her friends were affiliated with a yoga center, and she had cassette tapes of mantra chanting. So in high school, my friends would be like, hey, Deb, can we come over and sit in the basement and chant mantras with your mom? So that was a unique upbringing for a suburban.
Completely.
Yeah, and a lot of fun. And we would do that with the cassette player, chant Om Namah Shivaya in a circle with my mom. So I had a little bit of that knowledge in me. Never really pursued it, but with this, the conclusion of this band and my friend's health crisis, who was the singer of the band, really led me to take a deep dive into spiritual practice. And through that, I was affiliated with a yoga center, and the yoga center would say, okay, there's no dancing. And I'm coming from this Brazilian musical background. I love to dance.
Yeah, love it.
I could tell you love to dance too.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and we were allowed to clap like this. It's like, you could clap like this during the songs. And I was like,
No,
wait, I know. And I had imagination and creativity, so started to write my own music. One girl in Chicago had a harmonium. A harmonium is a pump piano. It was brought to India by missionaries, I think English missionaries, and it suited the Indian and the Pakistani mentality very well because it could create and sustain a drone and also a melody.
And easily transportable.
Yes.
Yeah, for all the wandering minstrels who want to sing around town. So this girl, Amy Tresiokas, who has a yoga center in Chicago called Yoga Now, her and I used to trade the harmonium back and forth. I think she was a grad student. She couldn't always play. She'd be like, okay, it's yours now. And then that's another thing that we used to do. Amy, Beth, and I would call our friends and say, hey, can we come over and chant tonight? And her boyfriend played tabla. And a lot of people would say, yeah, no, not tonight. They didn't want us. But sometimes people would say yes. So we just started chanting mantras, singing uplifting English songs that were rooted in yoga traditions. And that was sort of the birth of Devi 2000.
Was that in 2000?
It was around 2000. Yoga felt for me and for many people, very exciting at the time. There weren't a lot of yoga centers. There were a few key places, and we would all gather there. So Devi 2000 had a monthly residency at, it was called Moksha Yoga in downtown Chicago. And at first we sat in a circle and we'd all introduce ourselves. Hi, my name's Debbie. I like to chant mantras. And we'd go around in a circle. And soon there were too many people to do anything like that. Because this was an exciting practice for people to participate in. Kirtan is call and response chanting, which means if I do the call, Larry and Esther, you guys get to sing too. You got to do the response. So it's for everybody. It gets everybody singing at a lot of different levels. It's interesting because culturally, we pay a lot of money to get a ticket to hear somebody else sing. We're never singing. I think probably I don't know if my grandparents, but great-grandparents years ago, they would all hang around the piano and have sheet music and sing together.
So true.
Yeah.
It's sort of like now we sing in the shower or in the car. But if you go see Devi 2000, you're in the band. So it's just a really powerful practice. And one thing I always like to share is that if anybody told you not to sing when you were a little kid in chorus or whatever, my suggestion is to sing louder and just see how it feels, see how it affects your heart. And what I learned, because I've been to India to study these practices and these mantras, is I've learned from my teachers, there's no bad sound in Kirtan. It just all goes to make a beautiful, beautiful music.
And the interactive part is so wonderful. Not only the call and response, but generally nobody's sitting down. They're all moving in some sort of way. And so the feeling in the room is just so electric.
It can be, and it can be very meditative also.
Very, yes.
With us all chanting the same words, it seems like everybody gets to also breathe together. So what happens when everybody in a room is inhaling and exhaling together? I don't know. You have to experience it to find out. And
so with Bhagavad Gita Baby, how do you approach writing? And are you doing the whole composition yourself?
Okay, that song is we actually have a 4th CD out called Planet Love, and that's less call and response chanting. The first 2 Devi 2000 CDs were Call and Response. But this third one or fourth one is, again, me feeling like I'm a creative person and I want to take this a little further. So I did write that track and the refrain, and trying to think who did the music. I worked on the music with the producer, who's one of my neighbors in Evanston. His name is Jim Tullio. He's a Grammy Award-winning artist and producer, and it was so fun working with him.
Yeah, he's so lovely.
He's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, why don't we just go ahead and take a listen to that from your Devi 2000 Agavita Kita Baby. Here it comes. that was Bhagavad Gita Baby. It's on the Devi 2000 album with our guest today, Debi Buzil.
Moving and dancing.
Moving and dancing. That was Debi Buzil's from her Devi 2000, which is available on Spotify and other platforms. And I listened to the rest of it in prep for the show. So it's a very relaxing and coming from a musical theater and jazz background. But it was very enjoyable to just listen to that and kind of power back. You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM, and on WVLP, 103.1 FM.
Yeah, and it's on Planet Love. That's the CD.
Right. So what projects are you looking forward to doing? You're ongoing with this, but new compositions, breaking out from doing something a little different, or tell us about what's down the road here.
Well, that was Planet Love Volume 1, and there's Planet Love Volume 2 that's going to come out, I think, 2023. So another batch of songs that are, again, based in spirituality and yogic practices that are less mantra-based, more English-based. So I'm excited for that. Last week, our group was invited to the Hindu Temple of Lamont for a celebration of Swami Vivekananda. And that was really fun. And just sort of easing back into post-pandemic gatherings.
With Planet Love Volume 2, is Jim producing that as well with you? Or at what point are you with Volume 2?
The songs are all done. They were recorded at Jim Tullio's studio, which is a great analog studio, which means the instruments are warm and the technology is cutting edge because he's that kind of guy. So the songs are done, the artwork's getting done, and soon it will be released.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Yay.
That sounds great. Yeah. You touched on the pandemic. Tell us how that influenced you or impacted you, I guess, might be the best way to say it. Some people were creative during that time and some people just kind of withdrew. But tell us how did Debbie influenced by that?
I think the thing that I really felt good about was releasing the Planet Love Volume 1. And that was basically what I could do. And that felt like a really great offering to, like you said, Larry, like it's chill. Just let people chill out, enjoy some nice music that has a good message. Yeah. One thing I'd like to share, is that okay?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Please.
I'm a part of the Oracle Collective. And the Oracle Collective is like-minded people who do chant or ambient music or spiritual music. And if you go to the Oracle Collective website, it's like one click and you could follow all the artists on the collective.
Oh, wow. Excellent. What site is that? Can you tell us that?
It's Oracle, AURICLE, oraclecollective.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've banded together and even worked to change the category of the Grammy Awards to include chant.
Right.
So it's New Age ambient and chant now.
Which
so
is included
really
now.
cool.
I'm a voting member for the Academy, and that's now included in that category. And we had a guest on earlier that her essentially was in the chant category. So, yeah, that's wonderful.
Bravo.
So tell us a little bit more about some of the instruments that you currently are playing.
Mostly I play harmonium, which is the pump piano. I play some guitar. I've got this, baby grand piano sitting behind me now that I love. But I would say mostly harmonium. Still, I work as a percussionist. People call me up to record with them, from my Brazilian days. And so that's a lot of fun. I'm playing with a collective called Marvin Tate's D-Settlement, which is great as a percussionist.
Sure.
Oh, how cool.
Putting on another hat. I love it. I love it.
Is there any crossover between your forms of music? I mean, it seems like that would be like you were talking about the yoga thing and how you can only do, it seems like maybe you could say yoga with dancing.
Yeah. I feel like we're 21st century people now. And there's a lot of boundaries to cross and a lot of, hand holding across the continents that we can experience. One world, unity, love. And I feel with the Desettlement Collective, it's really, my boundary for working with people is it has to be uplifting and it has to be truthful.
We have just about 1 minute left, so we want to give you time to tell us about how people can find out more about you and your music and everything, websites and everything like that.
I would say we can start with the Oracle Collective because I'm really excited about that project. It's working to change the algorithms on things like Spotify. So we all rise up together because it's really hard being a musician these days. So Oracle Collective, Facebook, Devi 2000, Devi 2000, Instagram, all the musical outlets, the Bandcamp, the SoundCloud, the Apple Music.
So a Google search will find you.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Also, Marvin Tate Desettlement as well. So so that'll be you percussing in the background a lot of times.
Totally. And we were New York Times, one of the top box sets of 2022. Our old music was released and it got like accolades from places like New York Times and Pitchfork. So that feels so good.
Well, we need to wrap it up here. Debi Buzil, you can listen to her music on the website you just heard, and we appreciate you coming on the show, Art on the Air. Thank you so much, Debi.
Yeah, such a pleasure. Thank you.
You guys are a delight. Thank you.
Chanting under the moon. Doing the right thing. On the wings of desire.
We'd like to thank our guest this week on Art on the Air, our weekly program covering the arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. Art on the Air is heard Friday at 11 a.m. and Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP 103.1 FM, streaming live at WVLP.org, and every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our Spotlight interviews are also heard every Wednesday on Lakeshore Public Radio. Thanks to Tom Maloney, Vice President of Radio Operations for Lakeshore Public Radio, and Greg Kovach, WVLP's Station Manager. Our theme music is by Billy Foster with a vocal by Renee Foster. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project Grant through South Shore Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. We'd like to thank our current underwriters for Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, Macaulay Real Estate in Valparaiso, Olga Patrician, Senior Broker, and for WVLP, Walt Breidinger of Paragon Investments. So we may continue to bring you Art on the Air. We rely on you, our listeners and underwriters, for ongoing financial support. If you're looking to support Art on the Air, we have information on our website at breck.com/AOTA, where you can find out how to become a supporter or underwriter of our program in whatever amount you are able. And like I say every week, don't give till it hurts. Give till it feels good. You'll feel so good about supporting Art on the Air. If you're interested in being a guest or sending us information about your arts-related event or exhibit, please email us at aota@breck.com. That's aota@breck, BRECH.com, or contact us through our Facebook page. Your hosts were Larry Breckner and Esther Golden, and we invite you back next week for another episode of Art on the Air.
Aloha, everyone. Have a splendid week.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the Air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the Air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world